Be a visionary with debonair, a playa from the Himalayas, iconic, not ironic, and become a night owl tonight, where like-minded members get together at the Night Owl Lounge, enjoying extra content, backstage hangouts, exclusive interviews by going to realdealmedia.tv/membership. Again, that's realdealmedia.tv/membership. Join tonight.
Tonight, Real Deal Media original series Late Night Update returns. Yes, it does. Starring Dean Ryan. Well, they said it wasn't going to come back. They said a show that was part of the franchise. Well, it brings us tonight with special guest Neil Bishop, all the way from the X News over there. He's got his own show. Well, tonight's episode is the new hate speech. Yes, it's so hateful I can't even tell you about it, but I can tell you, get ready to love it. Find out who's behind it. What is their agenda? Who are these people? What do they want from me? What do they want from you? What do they want from us? And why now? Brace for impact. Get ready. It's a late night update. All right. Welcome, everybody, to Late Night Update right here at Real Deal Media's original series, Hallways here. I'm Dean Ryan, your late night host. This is a wonderful franchise of a show where we can really hone on to a in-depth conversation, which is what we're going to be doing here tonight as we get into the new form, the new wave of censorship out there, as it is called the new hate speech. Yes, it is. We'll be talking about that with our special guest, Neil Bishop from X America News. I believe that's it, as the announcer who told us that totally got that wrong, and he'll be fired immediately. Yes, there's a lot of things happening here in the headline news throughout the week, and sometimes they get overlooked due to certain fiascos that seem to be popping up all around the world. Certainly, it has been the case here domestically in the United States with the recent events of the Charlie Kirk assassination. But there's things that are stemming from that particular event that are going to be affecting us, not just for the next couple of weeks and months, but for quite a while. Just like in the aftermath of 9/11, we saw the very patriotic act, the Patriot Act, which was pretty much authorized immediately, but also authored even before the events of 9/11. Yeah, hard to believe, but it's something we're still living through today. There's never a sunset on these things. So, so there's a few things happening, and let me just set the stage before we bring Neil Bishop here. He's a very busy guy, and I'm surprised he's here tonight. I can't even believe it. I pinched myself so much. I'm black and blue, but just right off the bat, because of this new hate speech, they say, because of the new hate speech, it could be the case now. I can now report to you, as this just came down the news hallways here. The Jimmy Kimmel Show just got canceled. Did you hear about this? I just literally heard about this moments before we went to air. And could it be because of his comments about Charlie Kirk just the other night? That certainly could be the case. I can't even repeat it because I might get canceled next. If I even repeat what somebody said, it could be taken out of context. Yeah, that certainly could be the cause for hate speech and cancellation. Well, even that. Well, let's go a bit further. Now, Marjorie Green Taylor is now issuing warnings about quote Jews taking over the Christian Patriotic Turning Point USA. Now that could be considered hate speech, Marjorie. What is Marjorie thinking? As now she's joining the chorus of hard right influencers posting their past text messages from Charlie Kirk as the MAGA World Debates. This is just hot off the press. Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, who you could say they're influencers. Many have said that Charlie Kirk, that is, turned against Israel in his own right and was even going to as far as converting to Catholicism, which is the number one adversary of the Jewish state. So could that be considered the new hate speech? That's a good question. Now, as I'm telling you this, Trump is now vowing to, as he's now threatening to target so-called, quote, radical left after Kirk's killing raises fears he's trying to silence foes. See, it's just like Rahm Emanuel said, never let a crisis go to waste. Well, this is coming out of the AP now, as now we have learned that Trump is now escalating his threats to crack down what he describes as the so-called radical left, which could be anyone. I was just called radical left just 2 nights ago. You know, I mean, you could be radical left tomorrow, and anything's possible once you put your mind to it. But in this case, they're saying it's the assassination that's now stirring the fears that his administration is trying to harness outrage over the killing to suppress political opposition. And that's the key. That's the key. No matter who's in power, no matter if it's the left, the right, the middle, the up, the down, when you have an abundance of power, it corrupts man. And history has proven that. So, but they're saying it's going to be used to prevent violence. Now, in addition to that, before we bring our guest on here tonight, as we have a in-depth conversation, even J.D. Vance has gone as far as saying the similar things as Donald Trump. Yes, he has. You might have seen his fiery speech last night as I showcased it on World at War. And make no bones about it, this is the moment of the power grab, no matter which way and how many ways you slice it. But let's have a further in-depth conversation with our upcoming guest here, who you might have seen me on his show over there on the X channel over there. He does X American News. He hasn't been back here in 2 years. You might have remembered him from the men's show that he did with myself there, and Sean Gregorian. Yes, he did. It was such a huge hit. He got in big trouble, and I'm surprised he's here tonight. But let's give him a round of applause for the return of the one, the only, Neil Bishop. Neil, welcome to Late Night Update.
Wow.
Good to see you.
Wow. It has not been 2 years. It hasn't been 2 years.
Yes, it has. It's been 2 years, and
Whoa.
you know, I thought maybe there was which I did that prevented you from coming back, but you're here tonight, Neil, and these are some very perilous times we're living in. As you called me earlier, and you said, "Dean, what a hell of a week it's been. I don't even know what to feel, what to think," and it's been that way for since it's stunning. So. Why don't we just get your take on what are we to make of this hate speech, and then we'll work our way back on how this all began earlier this week. But is this the right thing to do, do you think?
Well, I have a couple things to say about that, but I first want to just start out by saying that I'm here against my better judgment and possibly even against my will. So I also want to say that if anybody out there knows my wife, do not, and I repeat, do not tell her that I came on with Dean Ryan tonight, because it might be the end of everything. So here we are. But yeah, does anybody remember a little thing called the Oklahoma City bombing? Do you remember that, Dean? Because I sure do. And I remember they pinned that on one man. And you know what they did with that? By the way, it was like the only man in history that didn't have an autopsy done after he was unalived, as they say now. And then all this legislation started about making American citizens, these homegrown terrorists and all this stuff. And then I remember this thing called 9/11. And then everybody was cheering on, like, let's bring in a whole new system of doing things, and let's make it just torture to get through an airport line, and let's just make everyone's lives miserable. Yeah, let's do this because we're going to stop those evil terrorists. I don't know. I'm just having flashbacks now of what, this whole hate speech thing you're talking about. I'm having flashbacks of every time something like this happens. It seems like there's people like jumping up and down to just an excitement to take away our freedoms. Doesn't it seem like that?
Well, that's just it, Neil. Look, first of all, Jimmy Kimmel, who I think he's
I've never
first
watched an
example of
episode.
it. Yeah, he's known as on the streets. He's known as Crybaby Kimmel. Now he's gone. The View's gone. I believe some, PMSNBC's gone. Now a lot of people are going to applaud for that, and I'm certainly one of them. But where does this stop? Because the Patriot Act was supposed to prevent terrorists from just coming here and running amok because they hated us for our freedom, and we've lived through this.
Yep.
Kids today, may not remember, but like Rahm Emanuel said, they never let a crisis go to waste, and they're certainly not doing it. And I have a problem with this, especially when you have Pamela Bondi. Who decides hate speech? Can you define hate speech to me? Because I can't define hate speech. I don't know how many people are going to go out of their way to just besmirch Charlie Kirk. I mean, it's constantly being promoted, Neil, on Fox News of the George Soros article, and I've never even heard of such things. What are we to make of this? I mean, how much of this is propaganda at its finest?
Well, we've always had this, at least the idea of freedom in this country. And that's all based on the best and First Amendment. I know people think the second one's the best, but honestly, you guys, the first one's the best. And I know without the second, we can't protect the first, but the first one's the best. And it's freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of thought, freedom to say what you want, even if it's retarded. And you know what? One thing I can get on board with. Now, there was talk of, I think it was little Marco, who we both don't think too highly of, but there was talk of little Marco saying that anybody who is outside the country and is mocking and cheering for the assassination of a young man named Charlie Kirk, well, we're going to yank their passport. Now, honestly, I can kind of get on board with that, because if you're not a citizen and you want to come here, you can't come burning your flag, and you can't come, mocking the greatest people that this country's brought up. But if you're an American citizen, at least the idea of being a citizen, which that we can go down a whole different rabbit hole, but we're supposed to, and we're at least under the guise of, you can say what you want, think what you want, say it how you want. And it might be totally stupid, it might not, but you're exactly right. The reason is, if the government decides what hate speech is, the government is people, and they are most often very stupid people. And then they decide what we can say, what we can't say. And even if it's terrible stuff, like about what people are doing with Charlie, I mean, the demons have come out, and I don't want to jump ahead of us, but we'll talk about the demons and all that kind of stuff that are coming out on both sides.
Well, this is what hate speech is. This is where it's all coming back to now, because in addition to all this, what we don't hear that's underway in the legislation, Neil, is in Florida, the congressman, his last name is Mast, I believe, who is also a former IDF soldier, but a current Florida sitting congressman, who put into legislation, which is also being championed and cheered by that little secretary, Marco, that, do you know who I'm talking about? You know, Marco? Yeah. Okay. This guy right here. So yeah, that one right there.
So cute.
So this guy right here, he's going to decide that who gets their passports, to come into the country. But get this, he has now the power to take away your passport of American citizens, so you're not allowed to travel anywhere else if you criticize Israel. And that's where it's all coming back down to. And let me tell you, like this story right here, I just we just had a look at it earlier. This, yeah, they're going to try to redistrict her, Marjorie Green Taylor, and then they're going to make a example out of her, as she's going for the gusto. You know what I'm saying here, Neil? So where I'm getting at is where I'm getting at is that it's all about to protect the greater Israeli project, the expansion. They don't want any criticism of it. That's why they took Charlie Kirk out. That's why he was taken out by the Mossad. This wasn't some tranny in the woods who was a shooter on the roof. They had 5 clothing changes with engraved rifles that don't even make sense. It's it's the story of a child.
Yeah,
because that's how they view Americans.
Yeah. Well, and this was not. Why do I have to say this? I don't know. Probably most of your listeners already know this. Never believe the official story, and thank the Lord for a few good men, and I'm going to say men, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, because she's acting more like a man than 99% of people that are over in DC. She's actually willing to say the hard things. And she did her tweet a little earlier saying, hey, you need to trust those like Candace and Tucker who are speaking the truth about this matter and stop trusting the narrative. And speaking of the narrative, whatever has happened to Cash is very strange. The guy looks like he's zoned out half the time. He doesn't know what's happening. He doesn't know his right from his left. He's got kind of that wandering eye. I had a great deal of respect for Cash, and I'm losing that because I don't understand what's happening now. Word is, and I haven't had a chance to look at this today. I don't know if you've heard about this. Is Dan Bongino resigning? Have you heard anything about this yet?
Dan Bongino? No, but I know that in the stories of this whole event here, they kept referring to somebody as the number 2 at the FBI, and then they would refer to Dan Bongino as somebody else, but it was always a number 2. So I think he's being pushed out. I think Kash Patel is definitely just. I mean, how he sat through Congress the other day. And literally said they couldn't. There was, that Epstein wasn't a procurer or a trafficker of any sort. There was no there. And then beforehand, before he got into the very blackmailed, footing and office of the FBI, it was, don't let him get away with this, guys. We have to put maximum pressure to release the files. And I'll tell you what it is, Neil, is either they're getting replaced, or mind controlled, or their very livelihoods are threatened. Like, where's Tulsi Gabbard? Just disappeared. Just Max Blumenthal just the other day said literally that Trump has been threatened by the Mossad. He is worried he fears his life is in grave danger. And I don't think that's a joke at all. I think that is the most realistic portrayal of what's happening to the American presidency in modern day times.
Yeah. And some of you may not know this, but the late, great Robert David Steele, I don't know if you followed Robert David Steele back in the day.
Yes.
He is no longer with us under very strange circumstances. And we have some inside information on that I can't get specific on. But he said, he's one of the first ones and only ones I've ever heard say this. All of them, when they start acting this way, they're one of 3 things, and it's one of the 3 B words: bribed, blackmailed, or brainwashed. And I think there's a lot of blackmail going on, obviously. And there's threats in there too, which would go along with the blackmail. But Robert David Steele was one of the biggest conspiracy theorists. Before it was cool to be a conspiracy theorist, he ended up dying of the COVID in a hospital, which he was one of the biggest voices against the COVID protocols and all that. So that's what ends up happening to truth tellers who start to gain traction. And let me tell you this too. I want to back up for a second. Charlie Kirk didn't die because he was opposing Israel or because he, was kind of going over to that side or whatever. He was questioning the narrative. He died because he had such a huge audience and he was making a difference.
Right.
And he started questioning his views, and he started publicly questioning. He did it in a very respectful way as well, but backing up, just so people understand. And this is being confirmed now by firsthand sources that Charlie Kirk was really struggling with the whole Bibi Netanyahu thing, the control that he has over U.S. Congress and over U.S. affairs, the wars, constant and endless wars, and the genocides that are happening over the Middle East. We could talk about Gaza and all that stuff. Leading up to this, apparently, allegedly, Charlie Kirk turned down $150 million that Netanyahu was going to release, whatever that means. I guess he's got power to just release hundreds of millions of dollars when he wants to, basically to say, hey, Charlie, here's a chance for you. And then a last chance, he invited Charlie to come to Israel. And I'm sure he was going to come to Israel. He was going to have him come and just take him alongside, put his arm around him and say, listen, buddy, here's how things work. Let's go kiss the Wailing Wall and wear our thing on our head and whatever we're going to do. And then Charlie declined that. And then Charlie's dead. And now you have people like Netanyahu coming out and doing damage control. I mean, right away. And Netanyahu's got his evangelical pastors on board. He's got his evangelical influencers on board to come out and do damage control quickly, saying, oh, no, Charlie was so pro-Israel and he was going to come to Israel. And now that won't happen, sadly, because of this incident, this horrible and awful incident. And Charlie and I were like best friends. And Candace Owens has done a great job in revealing this. And now she's under unbelievable attack.
Well,
and
I want to touch upon that.
Yep.
Okay. So who's the pastor? Who's Charlie Kirk's pastor?
Oh, I have it in here. It's not Greg Locke, thankfully, but it's another guy.
We'll come back to him. But
yep.
So I did a story on this, and they were literally hiding the pastor's name throughout the entire article. And he wants to talk about how distasteful it is of Candace Owens to just really question the death of her friend. How distasteful is it for that guy to go after Candace Owens at a eulogy? And, I think there's a misconstrued thinking by these pastors just because they're in the religious business and they think they're close to God in some cases. Doesn't mean they're smart. Doesn't mean they're not able to be bribed. It doesn't mean they're not, fallible and or blackmailed financially. Like that guy was just proven he was.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned earlier, the other guy, what's his name? Robert Hawaii.
Rob McCoy and Greg Locke, who's the worst of the worst, and very likely some sort of paid asset for this entire Israeli narrative. And which is so, and you mentioned, okay, many of these pastors, I'm sure some of them are great people. I'm telling you right now, some of them are pedophiles. That's part of the kind of the awakening over the last number of years, is that a lot of these mega church pastors have been exposed as pedos and raging homosexuals. I don't know about Greg Locke. It certainly wouldn't surprise me if that were the case. But here's a pastor going on War Room, going on Alex Jones. All he does.
Oh, Greg Locke. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. And all he does is wear his shirt with his Star of David, which is not the Star of David. It's absolutely not. And if you guys think that's the Star of David, there's nothing about a Star of David in the Bible, all that stuff. And I've happened to read the Bible cover to cover numerous times, so I can speak on this.
Really?
And he just gives a defense for Israel, whatever Israel today is, the modern day state of Israel, which is as many of us know, it's a Rothschild creation to really control the world. And so it's fascinating to me, Dean, that as soon as, within minutes of Charlie dying, you have the prime minister of another country coming on and going on basically on a tour of
20 minutes,
himself.
20 minutes after.
Yeah. 20 minutes.
So the timeline is 48 hours before his death, Ben Shapiro goes on the Charlie Kirk show. Charlie Kirk trying to rebrand his, USA, turning point,
Turning point. Yeah.
because his political capital was at an all-time low. That's why the story of this immediate narrative where you had the creepy governor and sheriff who just looked like the same person to me, go on national TV trying to remember their script, almost had to use cue cards to really push the narrative of political assassination, political violence. And you had Ben Shapiro do the same thing. He did the rounds afterwards. But it wasn't. That's not, so that's what they want us to believe. So then 20 minutes. First, you have the Jerusalem Post who announces the death first, followed by Netanyahu 20 minutes after. Then you have Shapiro, who's, they're taking over the turning point. He says, I'm going to go on tour. Oddly enough, very reminiscent to LBJ, who had just happened to have the Bible handy to do the swear in as the president in his pocket, day of JFK's assassination. He was just, LBJ on the spot, like Shapiro on the spot. And this is all a coordinated thing. Now, Shapiro is not from Israel. Shapiro is an LA rich kid from like Burbank. His dad owned bars. He grew up in the LA scene. But like Charlie, he got mixed up with a very, very dangerous crowd of the Zionist mafia.
Yep.
It happens, go watch Goodfellas or Godfather. But Shapiro is also responsible for allowing the mass migration in handing out the visas over there in Panama. Just in the past 2 years, he was doing that before Trump came in. And now that Trump's in, he's being followed by the Chabad, the Lubavitch, I want to say, these rabbis that follow him everywhere he goes. And then you have the mysterious disappearance of his son-in-law, the rat himself. I can't think of his name. Jared.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And just, so you have all these things. And so getting back to the Kirk thing is the timing is impeccable. Yeah. The odds of that happening is unimaginable. Now, and then you had Trump announcing Charlie's death like immediately.
Yeah.
So then you have another crowd that says this was a complete psyop. Nobody died. And this was a complete theatrical performance. What do you think about that angle too? Because I don't want to shut any of these other theorems out, as it's a big tent around here. But what are your thoughts on that, Neil Bishop? What say you?
So I'm really, really excited and like kind of ecstatic that much of the world seems to be questioning it. And I doubt the majority, but I mean like way more than what used to question things. We used to watch Dan Rather and Peter Jennings and we watched we watched man land on the moon and we all just we're cheering it along, and we watched JFK get shot and nobody questioned, and there was the man with 3 names that came out and it was him as the evil guy and all that stuff. So it's very heartwarming to see people questioning it. But you also have people that shut their minds down on the conspiracy side too. And immediately they say, within minutes, you had conspiracy influencers or whatever you want to call them saying that this didn't even happen. Wasn't real. This was CGI. And they'll post a picture of Charlie Kirk doing a Mason sign or whatever, the Illuminati sign or something like that. And they say, see, this is proof. It was all fake. It was all set up. Nothing even happened. Like, you guys got to take a breath and still think, because both sides of the aisle tend to shut their brains down. One side listens to the parroting media. Oh, we got him. Oh, a lone shooter, a trans guy shot him from 200 yards away. Oh, and we go, yay, okay, we know who it was. We know who the shooter was. And then the other side goes, no, nothing even happened. We know for sure. And not only that, Charlie, I'm not joking. There's a conspiracy side that says Charlie Kirk's actually a trans. He's been transvestigated. He's actually a woman. His wife is actually a man. Candace Owens is actually a man. You know what I mean? It's like,
that is hate speech. That's hate speech, Neil. I have to stop you there because I don't want to have to cancel you tonight, but I will if I have to. I just want to give you a fair warning.
Oh, I'm going to get my passport. I'm going to get deported to Venezuela or something like
Neil,
that.
I get commission for that. I get a commission every time I do. But a lot of people are saying, what about the wife? What about the wife? The odd kind
Yeah.
of
So
appearance of the wife and
that's an
mannerisms. And what are your thoughts on that? Because I feel that you know, who knows? Because I remember when I was telling you this earlier. I remember when Michael Hastings died in Hollywood. I was living in Hollywood Hills, working with some people back then, and the wife wanted nothing to do with us. She didn't want to give any testimonials of what she thought happened, what files he possessed in his cabinets, because she probably feared for her life. Maybe. What are your thoughts on the wife's
yeah.
performance and the mannequins in the coffins?
So a couple things going back for just a second. I never think the truth is somewhere in the middle. I hate that saying. I think the truth, there's right and there's wrong. And so one side is correct and one side's not. But there's not just two sides, though. There's probably about a dozen sides of what actually happened here. And I've watched that shooting 6 ways from Sunday, and I believe very strongly that Charlie Kirk was shot. If you look at the angle, I absolutely do not believe he was shot from a straight angle from someone up on a roof. It seems to me that he was
Yeah,
shot from the side. And there's actually
that's
people that are looking at it now, going in one side here, and then it would make sense because I hate talking about this. It's horrible, and I'm sorry, you guys, and I want to be respectful because this is all under the belief system that Charlie Kirk did get assassinated. He is a martyr, and I want to be respectful. That's why it's terrible talking about this, but it seems like it went in one side, came out here, and immediately the blood was gushing, and you have, I don't know, a half a dozen very, very suspect people that were doing the hand signs that looked like they may have been
oh
carrying
God,
some
yeah.
sort of weapon. I mean, if Cash Patel and
Look,
company aren't actively chasing them down and investigating them, they need to be fired because that has to happen. Now, go ahead, you can jump in, but I want to get into his wife.
okay, well, Neil, I mean, go ahead.
Talking about
Feel free to.
his wife. So I want to share some
Okay, go
things
ahead.
with you. This is interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's two different theories right now. And one is that she's just, Erica Kirk and she's a grieving widow and it's all authentic. That could be true. There's another theory that she's been replaced. There's actually 3 theories. There's a theory that she's been replaced. Now they've done that before, you guys. They've replaced people. And we could go on and give examples for that. But that somebody else is playing the
Yes.
role of Erica Kirk. Now there's that theory. There's another theory that she has now, and again, this is with all due respect, because if she's authentic, I want to just say I don't know what to believe. I'm just going to say some interesting things to think about. I'm not saying this is true, but this theory is that from a very young age, she was groomed to work with high up entities, perhaps Israeli or Mossad, that type of thing, CIA. And she was placed in this spot at this time years ago to marry Charlie Kirk and to get him to kind of pursue her. So some things real quick, I'll just name off some things that you guys may not know. This is her own admissions. This is not conspiracy. This is just what she's said. She's been in the entertainment industry since she was 13 years old. She was Miss Arizona. She was a model, actress, and host, and a casting director for TV networks. She's lived all over the world. And apparently, she met Charlie in no other place than Israel. She has her own clothing line. She has her own podcast and her own ministry. As I mentioned, she was at Miss Arizona in 2012. She's significantly older than Charlie. I think 5, 6, 7 years older than Charlie. She worked alongside U.S. military in Romania. I can't figure out exactly what she was doing yet. She's also a licensed real estate agent in New York. And I haven't confirmed this, but some have said confidently that she worked with the same group in New York, the same real estate group as Epstein. Now, do your own homework, look that up. And some
I've never
are
heard
saying,
this before. Wow.
Well, and some are saying that, so a friend, it's kind of been a mystery. Some high up friend introduced Erica to Charlie. Some believe that high up friend was Donald Trump. She worked in relation to I think it was a TV network or something that Trump had. So take those facts and do with them what you will. There's also pictures floating around of what people are saying was the authentic Erica Kirk and then the one that gave the speech the other night. Again, I'm not. I don't know. I'm just saying these are some theories that are out there, and if it's all authentic, my
Yeah.
heart goes out to her and the significant loss. But there are some very strange things. Most people have seen the casket video. Did you see that, Dean? Where she's leaning over the casket?
Yeah, you know what? I had some issues earlier this week with really getting into further
Okay.
details of this whole thing, but I've heard about it. But tell me about the casket, if you would.
It's a very again, man, this stuff's hard to talk about.
Well,
It's a very strange, intimate video of her leaning over the casket into Charlie's hands, and she's kind of kissing his hands, whispering to him. And somebody had to have a camera literally this close behind her. Who would do that? And why would they do that if they weren't just setting it up? Now, the fact is,
right,
she's been an actress. She's admittedly an actress. She's admittedly a casting director for TV networks. I mean, we know just by watching movies, you should know how this kind of thing can work. I'm not saying that's what this is, but they will groom people from childhood to
oh,
come in
they
and
do,
do
yeah,
different jobs, to live in a different country, to live a different life, and you're actually literally living, and you can still literally fall in love with somebody, marry them, all the while you're doing it because you're under assignment to do it, but you're actually literally having kids and married to this person and that kind of thing. So
that's
that's
true.
the theory of that. But the casket one, if you haven't seen that yet, I guess you can look it up and watch it. The only word I have for that is it's very cringy. And I'm sorry if it's real. I'm sorry. That's all due respect. I just don't understand why, if that was authentic and real, why somebody would be filming it and why they would want that on camera. It's very odd to me.
Well, let me add some things here because there's a lot, there's so much to this. But if we go back to the kill shots, I showed another angle just last night, and I have to almost stop showing these because I'm getting hit every time by the censors on
Oh yeah.
pick a platform.
Yeah.
Uh, but the Mossad has some of the most high tech weapons people don't even know about, but you might have seen like in James Bond. For instance, in the beginning of the, like somebody told me I lost my mind because I showed a different angle. Just I believe it was last night of a guy in the front who had his watch. The watch can be a gun as well. It can be a gun, and they have bullets. The CIA has bullets that dissipate once they make entrance, like ice bullets. They evaporate. There's no trace. Mossad has these. Mossad has the most advanced weapons,
Yep.
even more so than our very own CIA, which has no regulations whatsoever because they're the same as it's the same force. Mossad, CIA, same thing. Which then gets into who's Ratcliffe, who is supposed to be the head of the CIA. What's he doing? Where is he? He's not all there.
Yeah.
We've had people, our very own James Martinez had an incredible meeting with the head of the CIA, and he says, no one's home. He's just like a stenographer for the Mossad for Israel.
Yeah.
And so you take all these into account. So, and then, like you said, the side shot, it was from our angle, it looked like he was just perpendicular with Charlie, but he was slightly behind him a little bit.
Yeah.
And that was the kill shot, I believe. Now, if you go back to the JFK assassination, they replaced the different bodies because they didn't want people to see where the true entrance wound was versus the exit wound. And that's why they completely whitewashed and scrubbed the entire scene, just like they did in the Daily Plaza, just like they did in 9/11, and just like they did in the Vegas massacre. Because I don't want to get into that, but they scrubbed the entire house of the shooter, the supposed shooter, Patsy guy of Vegas. They did it here again. So could it be said that they took him out? It was manufactured, but they took him out because he was being groomed because of his parents, his wealth, his Zionist connections. He was being groomed to be the next president of the United States down the road. I think the question or the answer to that is absolutely yes.
Yeah.
Just in the same way that Obama was groomed to have such a role. Definitely, Bill Clinton, you can make the case, was groomed. He did a lot of dirty work. And dare I say George W. Bush. So we're finding all these things out. And a lot of people, they swapped the brains of JFK. Yes, it's hard to believe, but this is what they did. And they had two different patsies. They had a Lee Harvey Oswald and then a Lee Harvey Oswald lookalike, who apparently, as you called it, was a raging homosexual, as you described it earlier. Which
and you know what?
What is raging?
It's like
I want to get into that too.
Steroids.
I want to get into that after the break. We have a break coming up here, but a lot of people. This is why people are saying, at the very least, and I think Neil can agree, and so can the audience, that the official story is a bunch of bunk. It's total fabrication and bullshit, and I think it's being used because this is why. And then we're going to go to break because I've asked, well, why aren't they going after people that are like the pro-Palestinian people on the left? Well, it's not them who they fear. Israel doesn't fear the Democrats and all that. It's who has the power right now. And this is the big fuel to the Zionist operation is the so-called right. In fact, look at this right now. This is who they're going after. Remember, Donald Trump said, well, the radical left is a problem, but really, I'm hearing that it's the radical right extremists. And he started listing out, factoids that he got straight from the ADL, the anti
defamation.
The anti-defecation people. Look at this right here. Look.
Defecation.
Look at this right here. DOJ says it right here in their own words. DOJ deletes studies showing domestic terrorists are most often right-wing that they got from the ADL. So she's going to be showing up at your door, Neil. This woman right here with Kristi Noem, and they better not show up at my door. I'm not going to take it. So that's what they're saying. It's the far right. They're setting the stage, and that's why I've told people. They asked me, Dean, how come why are you not allowed on YouTube, but people like the what's his name, Krusty Cracker, Salty Cracker, that guy, why is he allowed to be on there? And because they're building him to be the straw man. Like Stu Peters is going to be the straw man of, oh, you're like Stu Peters. Oh, you're like this guy. Anyone who's critical with intellectual conjecture of what's happening to our foreign policy is going to be bunched in to the straw man they allowed to stay on these big platforms. And then they tie you up to that. Then they get you with hate speech. And that's how this thing is going to go, Neil. But Neil, I'm going to get your take on that. Let's take this quick break real quick. And Neil's going to get some water and have some cognac too. That's what he does around there. Okay, so hold on there, Neil. All right, when we get back here, this is Late Night Updates, in-depth discussion here tonight, interview with the wonderful Neil Bishop. But I want to get into, when we get back, is the payoffs of the evangelical pastors. And this is the silent killer, I should say the fuel for the silent killing going on over there in the killing fields of Gaza is because of the American taxpayer, but the religious zealots who you could make a case are perversing the teachings. We're going to talk to a man who claims to go to church, I think, and is a Christian practitioner. We're going to talk to Neil about that and get his thoughts, as he's met a lot of these people. And I've tried. No one wants to meet me. I don't know why. But anyways, don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this quick message. Yes, we'll be back. Stand by. Remember, like, going into the 90s? Like, there's some movies that I would recommend you leave in the past. The movies with cops. So you had one cop who was playing by the rules, ready for retirement. The other one who was rogue. Took the badge. Maverick. He's a maverick. He don't play by the rules. He's dangerous. He hangs on to 18-wheelers going, 90 miles per hour by the side and takes a fleet of army down, a whole fleet. just talking about it, I get blurry. That's how bad it gets. No, there's no rules. Once you take the badge off, anything goes. You know, it's full on too when the good cop who played by the rules his whole career goes,
all right, I'm taking my badge off too for this one time.
And, you think about those films we grew up on, is the cop movies, lawyer TV shows, the hospital shows. You would think that the only jobs in America are cops, lawyers, and some gig at the hospital. Right. We are back here. We are back. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. I'm TheRealDeanRyan, your late night host here tonight as Late Night Update returns here with the new hate speech as we're talking about it, as the new rules of engagement have changed, just like the Geneva Convention has nothing but a thing of the past. Yes, it is. Jimmy Kimmel has now been canceled. I can't say I've shed a tear over that one, but neither did the left, I guess you could say, when Alex Jones was canceled, because that was considered hate speech under the last administration, but it didn't stop there with Alex. He was the straw man who then they used to bunch up and round up everyone else under that category. And it was the beginning of a huge wave of censorship, cancellation under that hate speech. And here we are again. And just because it feels good for the moment, in the long run, it's not good. You know, I remember when the gay marriage issue, or as Neil called it, the raging homosexual marriage, as he described it earlier. They said it would be used, it would be a slippery slope, not soap, but that would allow men to adopt children. And they said, oh, that is so homophobic. How dare you? Well, that's exactly what happened in the long run. And it was also used to get rid of the religious rights of churches and who they choose to unionize under a marriage ceremony versus not. Just like the Civil Rights Act of 1965. It felt good. It was great, but it broke up a lot of the black neighborhoods. It also got rid of property rights and business rights of business owners. So there's always this 4 steps forward and 3.5 steps back. Do we see? Because government is not the answer. It is the problem. And luckily, we have the solution, and I think he's back with us now. Neil, I'm going to welcome you back. You are the cure, not the cancer. Let's get into this as I was just giving a history lesson here as the substitute teacher for tonight. But I want to talk about the religious factor here, because certainly, Charlie Kirk was very Christianity centered in his journey, but really his objectives with the Turning Point USA. It was very Christian centric, I guess you could say. And but with that, in that same league, you have a lot of these pastors that are now rescinding the 501c3 status of not being allowed to comment on the modern headlines of today. But they're going a step further, aren't they? There seems to be an echo chamber of pastors that are all in favor of this Israeli government. And I want to get your take on that. And because you've met some of these people, What are your thoughts on that? Are they truly fueling the ethnic cleansing that's underway?
Yeah, I mean, you would think that from what these pastors are saying, you would think that they're on payroll by, I mean, you think they're employees of the corporation, the war machine that is Israel. And backing up, what I think many don't understand is just because a country or a nation calls itself Israel, and just because people call themselves Jews, doesn't mean they are. And that's not anti-septic. Is that what they call it? Antiseptic, anti-Semitic, whatever they call it. To
Septic.
say that,
Yeah.
antiseptic. I know I'm being antiseptic right now, but it's okay because you know why? I have a lot of confidence in this area. Number one, because I actually know what the Bible teaches. And number two, I have Jewish friends who have taught me much of this information. And I've read Jewish authors, and one of the best authors you could read is a book called, it's by Jack Bernstein, who was a Jew. And he wrote a book called, oh man, the book's slipping my mind now. The Life of an American Jew in Israel. And he gives a very basic short synopsis of what Israel actually is and what Jews actually are. And one of the worst deceptions that we have in our time is when you say the word Jew, we think that it means the children of Jacob, who was the offspring of Isaac, who was the offspring of Abraham. And we think that Jews today mean the Israel of the Old Testament thousands of years ago. I'm not exactly sure why people think that, except that it's a great, I believe, a great deception of our time. And it was basically thrust upon us for the reason that we're seeing now. We're coming to the fruition of the plan. And that was for central control to come through really the U.S. out of Israel to control the world of so-called Israel is what I call it. So when we talk about, you've seen the majorly awkward and cringe interview between Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz, where Tucker just asks questions and Ted Cruz is twiddling his thumbs and he's nervous and he's sweating and he's looking around and he's laughing and he doesn't know how to answer. But Ted Cruz says, look, I was taught in Sunday school that if we support Israel, then we'll be blessed. And Christians are commanded to support Israel. None of that's in the Bible. We've never been commanded to support Israel. Even if Israel today is the actual Israel of the Old Testament scriptures, there's no commandment in the Bible for Christians, for Christ followers, to support Israel, especially the government of Israel, and especially to give Israel endless war machines and cash so they can blow up whoever they want and whoever they deem as a threat, all under the guise of Israel has a right to defend itself. Israel has a right to defend itself. It was the great, terrible Hitler who said, if you repeat over and over again the same thing, people will believe it. And it's gotten into our textbooks. It's gotten into our theology, the Schofield Study Bible. It's all there. The propaganda goes strong. Every Christian I knew when I was growing up had a Schofield Study Bible, and you worship the notes of Schofield, who was basically an asset of the Rothschilds to push a message about Israel, that the Israel we see today are God's chosen people, and how dare you question them, and you better give them endless money and endless ways to wipe people off the planet that they disagree with whom they disagree. Here's the interesting thing I'm going to say about that. If you read books by Benjamin Friedman, Facts Are Facts, or you read books by Jack Bernstein. By the way, Jack Bernstein challenged to have public debates with Zionists, and Jack Bernstein ended up dying under very suspicious circumstances at a younger age than he should have died. But if you read those books and you begin to understand that that all Jews are not just Jews. There's different types, and there are those that the ones we see in Israel, which is interesting to me, are white, Russian, European looking people. The ones that they're killing are generally darker skinned, more Palestinian, Middle Eastern looking. It's really interesting to me because most people believe that the original Jews looked different than the average person. meaning they were darker skinned. Most people believe that Jesus was darker skinned. The modern day movies about Jesus and all that are all a bunch of hogwash. This
Like
blonde-haired,
you're saying
blue-eyed guy.
Jesus was black or something? There's that movement. Is that what you're saying?
He's not exactly black, but he would be probably, I would assume that he's the same color that Adam and Eve were. I think they were a middle of the road, Arab looking type of people. And it's really interesting to me.
Okay.
Here's the thought. And I know some Jews that believe this, that
You do. Oh.
what if the very people that Israel is vowing to wipe off the face of the earth, because they're always saying that everyone's trying to wipe Israel off, but Israel's actually saying, no, we're going to wipe you out, and they're actually doing it. What if they're closer to the actual bloodline of biblical Jews than the people in Israel are, the government of Israel, the people that are claiming to be Jews? Because most of those, if you read these books and you have an understanding of history, migrated from Europe and Russia. These were migrants coming into this new land.
Right. So
self-proclaimed Jews.
So basically, all right. So I see it from a similar perspective is after World War II, a lot of the European leaders didn't want the refugees from Germany, clogging up Europe. So they set up through the Rothschilds, they found this Palestine where there was grazing, just people grazing as they saw it, and put them there for two things. Number one, it is the Mecca for the military industrial complex. I mean, if you're a military contractor, you want to have an Israel. That is your golden goose. It's always going to give. I mean, war is the most profitable thing in the United States, more than anything. So you have that factor. It was also going to be used to set up the consolidated one world government, as World War I gave us the League of Nations. World War II gave us the UN, the United Nations. They wanted the next war to be caused by a linchpin of a country, in the same way that they're putting the Somalis and the Somalians in Minnesota. People that are in the sun and the heat, you put them in the most whitest, in the most coldest place in the country to create friction. Then you have a protected class. Through the protected class, you have the bully pulpit to not just advocate for equal rights, but then to start advocating as a lobbyist firm and have full domination and power. And that's exactly what Israel is. But now, because they're now the Bolsheviks who gave us communism to begin with, you have Netanyahu, who's willing to sacrifice everybody there. That's why a lot of people are now escaping to Cyprus. And now Cyprus is having a problem, saying, wait a minute, all these rich Jews are buying up all the territories and the government lands around critical infrastructure. We have to put a stop on this. But he's willing to sacrifice Israel, because the new Israel was set to be Ukraine. They were all going to go back to Ukraine, where the Khazarians came from. That's why Zelensky was the asset they put into power. That's why he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He just takes orders and he just does blow all day. It must be hard to be that president.
Yeah, he's an actor.
Yeah. Yes, a bit. So that's what I'm saying. So they're willing to do this, and it plays into Albert Pike's prediction of and consensus is a lot of the EU leaders and everyone in the regions really don't like Iran or Israel that much. They're hoping for mutual destruction, which would then create an annihilism and rid the world's biggest religions of all time, the Muslim faith, the Judaism faith, because the red heifer died and nothing happened. And so when Israel gets blown up and, Christ doesn't come back, that gets rid of that religion. So then you create a new class of annihilism, they're saying, a new class of atheism, and the Muslims too will then falter because, Muhammad won't appear. Or maybe they do with Project Bluebeam. So that's the whole purpose of creating the state of Israel for the one world government, and that's where we are today. And that's my thesis on it, Neil.
Very well said. And I want to get biblical and theological for a minute.
Let's get biblical.
Let's do it. These are biblical times. Let's get biblical. People don't realize, or maybe they do. Many people don't. Israel is an atheist nation. They're a godless nation. They're not over there practicing what we would call today Judaism, which is another big rabbit hole deception to go down, this whole Judeo-Christian thing, which interestingly enough, Charlie Kirk was starting to distance himself or at least question it. The whole Judeo-Christian values and this thing that Ben Shapiro talks about, and many pastors have been trained to talk about things like that. Israel doesn't practice Judaism. I'm speaking as a whole. They are very communistic. Israel is not the place that people go and tour, which, big Christians go over there. Congress goes over there. Have you seen the picture lately of Congress all over there surrounding Netanyahu, like he's the king or something, and they're his little, dwarfs. It's communist, it's atheist, and from a biblical New Testament perspective, they reject Christ. And Ben Shapiro has flat out said, he said on Joe Rogan and on other outlets, that Jesus was nothing more than just a rebel rouser who got what was coming to him. And so and I used to have respect for Ben Shapiro because I like it when people debate and they, much like Charlie Kirk, I like that Ben Shapiro was going to the university, stuff like that, until Ben became, it seems like to me, a paid asset to just be the Israel, like Pastor Greg Locke, just another paid asset to be the Israel.
Yeah, let's get into that. Let's talk about some of these pastors too. That I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. As we circle around here, because you met some of them, but paid assets. That's just it, Neil. How come we know this about what's happening in the Middle East? I've been studying Israel for about 15 years now. Yeah. How come we know that? But these pastors seem, just so gullible, like they're Gilligan, and they just don't know any better. How come they don't know that? Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah, because they're all reading the same commentaries, the same Bible commentaries. They're all going to the same seminaries, which it's very close to cemetery. I've said many times that seminary is where people go to kill their faith. It's where your faith dies, because the seminaries are much like the modern day Rothschild education system. They're there to brainwash you, not tell you or teach you how to think. They're telling you what to think. And they tell them what to think about the Bible.
Did you attend any of those in your time? Because
I did not attend.
You're a Christian, I think.
Yeah. I think you called me. I'm a church Christian, I think is what you said.
Is that what I said?
I'm a church Christian. Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
And here's the thing that I've done, and it's so funny because people are like, "Well, what gives you the authority to talk about it?" Well, I'm like, I've read my Bible.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done that.
Yeah. Who do you think you are, Neil? Who do you think
you are?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. It's just like when somebody doesn't have a degree or your doctorate, you can't talk about health or science or anything like that. It's the same thing. They shut you down. But in the New Testament, it says things like, not all Israel is Israel. You're like, what does that mean? And then he goes on, the biggest, the person who wrote a third of the New Testament, Paul himself, known as the Apostle Paul, he says that true Israelites, or the true seed of Abraham, are those who trust in Christ. He says that's the true seed of Abraham. And he goes on and makes a case that even those who are of the physical line of Jacob, which would be the true physical Jews, are no longer Jews if they don't accept the Jew, the Messiah that came from the Jewish line, from the seed of Jacob through the seed of David to Jesus Christ himself. And from a Christian standpoint is all I'm saying. If you don't receive Christ, the Bible says that the wrath of God abides upon you. And so the wrath of God, according to the New Testament, abides upon Israel. And I think by extension, the United States, from a theological and biblical standpoint, because we're supporting what the Bible calls the synagogue of Satan. And the synagogue of Satan are...
What is the synagogue of Satan?
It's Revelation 2:9 and Revelation 3:9. You can look it up and read that. And you can read it and people say, well, in context, this and that. No. In context, it's talking about those who call themselves Jews and are not. And they use their power as Jews to commit atrocities and to do anti-Christ and anti-biblical things. And so that's where we're at today, from my perspective, is one of the, probably, I don't know if it's the biggest, but one of the biggest deceptions that the world has ever seen is this deception of Israel. And you guys, I'm telling you, look up Benjamin Friedman. He's from the mid 1900s. He worked in like 4 different presidential administrations. This guy was high up. He knows his stuff. And he was one of the only ones that was calling out what you were calling out. Why did we get into these wars? How did Israel come about? And how was this Israel created and this deception happened? And he calls it the greatest deception in the history of mankind.
Well, I agree with you. I think that this Israel factor is the most critical and important issue of our lifetime right now. And it's also the main thorn in the Trump presidency here, because the support and the amount of it that Trump has lost because of Epstein and all the just fumbling of it and the associations, the Wailing Wall. You know what the Wailing Wall really is supposed to represent, don't you, Neil?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Well, I was hoping you would, but anyways, with that, so this is the most important issue of our time, because you look at all these events from. We might have to enter after that. I'm flagging myself on that one for hate speech. You look at the most important events of our time, from the JFK onward to the USS Liberty to just recent with Charlie Kirk, and it seems to be a hidden hand there in the elephant in the room. Neil, you know, let's talk about that. And but real quick, I want to ask you, and then I want to come back and circle around to and finish with Donald Trump here. But have you met these pastors? Because I know you and your wife, Sharona, you know, you guys work with Mike Lindell and a lot of the who's who. You went to Mar-a-Lago and met all these. Have you met these pastors? And tell me your experience with that. And did they smell like shills? Because a lot of them just have that look to begin with. Yeah. Like, you know, who are the ones we should be most concerned about that are closest to the White House there?
It's interesting because I'm not gonna drop names, but yes, we've rubbed shoulders with many of them. A couple in particular that have, you know, direct access to the White House and to Trump. And I will say, to be fair, they don't seem like shills to me. I mean, they're not all the Greg Locke type. And I use him because he's the most easy, obvious example, because he just can't help it. Greg Locke is a man just completely overtaken by his own pride and ego. I don't know if he's an asset. I would guess he probably is, but I know 100% sure he's just got a huge ego that won't let go of this, and he won't be wrong, won't allow himself to be wrong. And now he's out there publicly attacking Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson because he just wants to do the right thing. But we have had contact. We're friends with some of them, and there's some good people in this movement that are still totally sold out to the Israel narrative and to the Israel agenda. But the good news is, Dean, is that they're starting to question. People are starting to kind of come out of their stupor with this one. And I think it's because we're putting energy out there. And it's like, I don't know if you heard a chemist talk about when you boil vinegar outside. You boil vinegar, it takes about an hour as you boil it. Vinegar boiling outside from your house can clear a cloud above you, because it's really cool. And they talk about how it chemically works and all that. I don't understand all that, but it vibrates through the ether. And you and I and others, what I hope we're doing is we're putting out a spiritual energy that's vibrating into the information ether, into the information world. We're out there, we're putting this out online. Who knows who's going to see it? But more importantly, when ears hear it and it vibrates into the minds and heart of people, they don't even know why. They'll be standing out looking at the moon one night going, I wonder if we actually landed on that thing. I for some reason, I'm just questioning it. And maybe it's because Dean Ryan, 8 years ago was on some podcast making fun of it. And that finally made its way through the ether and hit this guy, right between the eyes and the noggin one night as he's looking at the moon. He's like, I want to know what that actually is. So I'm hoping it's because enough of us are talking about it. We're putting it out there. This is a hill to die on. I tell you what, I totally respect Candace Owens. I hope she stays on the straight and narrow, because that is
you are concerned about her.
We're very concerned about her. I don't know if I want to put that out there. I'm just concerned that if the wrong people get around somebody, they can take them down. And I think that's what you mentioned about Charlie. I think Candace is way more in tune with
Mhm.
the conspiracy
Right. What's
agenda.
happening?
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
way more in tune than Charlie
Well,
was. And
yeah.
but she also, I just hope that and pray that she has a plan, because and the reason I was going to say I said that is because I respect her, because she won't shut up. She won't be
Well,
she won't be scared down.
well,
And yeah,
two,
so
two, two things real quick is the vinegar chemist. God, you just the reflection of Breaking Bad when you were doing that just was haunting my mind. But I'm like, who's this
my
chemist we're
vinegar
talking
lab
about?
out in my
Yeah,
camper. I
yeah,
got a vinegar lab, and I'm boiling
yeah,
vinegar and
yeah.
smoking out
Your
the window.
chemist friend that you're talking about, a good friend of yours. Um, Neil's meth lab. I love it. But the other one too, you said the moon, and this is exactly what what's his name, Shapiro. What he was
Uh-oh.
saying yet the other day to Lambost people who were questioning things. They can't use the moon anymore. This people say that as a hit piece. So let me guess, you're one of those people that don't believe we landed on the moon. Well, guess what? Well, the consensus is a lot of people don't believe a lot of the narratives from the past. And yeah, the moon is probably one of them that's up there.
Yep.
So, they do these silly arguments,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then they have
Yeah.
to use the institutions. Well, the the Sun, the Guardian papers said, and they're not a right wing paper. Well, no one believes in the institutions either anymore. And
Yep.
the institution, one of the last ones that is the domino to fall, is the Israeli institution, which
Yeah.
has been an indoctrination ship for Christians all over the world. And I feel bad for the Jews, the Jewish people who have
Mhm.
been indoctrinated and
Yeah.
totally brainwashed their entire life, their entire identity. And the reason they're going for it all right now, Neil, the Zionists, is because the young Jewish people of this country and over there in Israel are not going along with it anymore. And that's why this is one of the most dangerous times that we have been encountered with in quite some time.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to just sunset here with
Yeah.
Donald Trump and with the fact that Max Blumenthal of the Gray Zone, an incredible as he's been called, self-hating Jew, but an incredible journalist who really broke the Charlie Kirk story about the $151 million being offered and is turning down, but also broke the story of the very grave danger that Donald Trump finds himself under currently with the Mossad, who has their own level, their own floor at the Pentagon, and who has been blackmailing people. They tried to blackmail former Congressman Matt Gaetz. And you've had whistleblowers that talk about how Mossad, they give gifts for us. They're spy mechanism devices. Well, that's exactly what they put in some of the emergency vehicles of the Secret Service around Donald Trump for some reason, of which we know they're explosive, improvised explosives. So let's talk about this, Neil. Is how does Donald Trump get out of this? Because we saw now, looking back in retrospect, of how Charlie Kirk was trying to get out of this in his awakening. How is Donald Trump getting out of this? Or is he just a big part of this? Because here's why. We want to talk about ethnic cleansing. Well, this just happened today. The internet, the entire internet of Gaza, for doctors, crew, anybody there, is now gone. It's a thing of the past. Internet down as Gaza cut off from the outside world after IDF bombs down communication towers. So not only are journalists, Neil, not allowed in Gaza because they don't want the truth, Israel doesn't want the truth coming out, but they cut the cords, which then implicates something we knew all along. All the internet goes through Israel, through all the cable cords. So let's talk about that. Does Donald Trump get out of this alive? Because J.D. Vance is positioning himself with Peter Thiel, the bloodthirsty goblin, and the Zionist to completely take over.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that in a kind of sunset?
Yeah, I do not trust JD Vance. I never have. Because Guy's got he's got a lot of proving to do before I would trust him. And even, even all of them, Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, all of them. I don't trust Donald Trump. And I've come under a lot of, I've been defriended, we'll say it that way, because of my stance with that. And I did that from the beginning. We don't put politicians in office so we can just blindly trust them. We put them in there to do our bidding. And if they don't do our bidding, we take them out. And we've forgotten where the power lies. We think that Donald Trump has the power. Supposed to be, we have the power. It's supposedly that. We're supposed to have the power. We put somebody in power, we take them out. I think, and this goes back to a dream I had after I was in a private dinner with DJT and some others. I had a dream following that dinner. And in that dream, there were two Trumps. One was looked much like the one that we had dinner with, a little bit underwhelming, kind of looked like an older man aging and funny and witty and stuff, but just wasn't much of a presence. The other Trump in the dream was more stately, bigger, taller, had that stern look on his face, like on the cover of his book. And as I'm walking down a hallway in the dream with the smaller statured Trump, we stop and we see about 20 feet away, the larger, more TV kind of Trump standing there staring at us with that stern look on his face. And he just looks at us, and the Trump that I'm with addresses him and he says, "Charles," and kind of nods and refers to him as Charles. And the other Trump looks and just nods, and we walk off. It's interesting to me to do. I've tried for the last couple of years to figure out what that dream meant. And now that Charles Kirk has passed, I'm like, this is interesting too. And so I need to think about that more. But the name Charles, I'm like, I can see why I'd have a dream about Trump. I'm not sure why I had a dream about two Trumps, but I don't have any idea where the name Charles came from in association with that. I looked it up after the dream, and it means, the root meaning is a freed man, one who was a slave and has been set free. My theory is, as a kind of a long way to get to the answer to your question, is that there are two Trumps. Now, I don't necessarily mean that physically, but I don't necessarily not mean that physically there aren't two Trumps. I'm saying that I think there are two Trumps, and I think one is controlled and one is a free man. And it's really up to him or them as to where this story goes and how it unfolds. I think it's fluid. I don't think there's a set plan in place either way for good or evil to win. I think both of them are at odds with each other. And I think one of the things we've seen with this Charlie Kirk incident is that thin line between good and evil just got thicker. And there's the evil, disgusting degenerates on one side that are cheering it on. And then there's somewhere in that middle line, people that are kind of starting to question it and not sure. And then over here are people that want to do what the truth is. They want to do what's right. And that line just got thicker. And I think, and I hope that line gets thicker between the two Trumps. And I hope the good Trump wins. I think there's a way out. And that's that if the good Trump completely puts his hands into the hands of the divine and says, I'm going to do what's right, even if they take my life, and I'm not going to cave anymore, like he apparently did with the Epstein list. And I don't know what's going on with this most recent issue with Charlie. I think Trump's acted very strangely. I don't understand what he's doing with this. He's going to be speaking in Arizona in a few days. And, we may or may not be there to see that, and may or may not be rubbing shoulders with some people that know what's going on.
I'll go further that you may not want to go. I don't mind. Yeah, I'll say there are different physical Trumps. I proved it. Well, here's one that is much younger Trump. He has a very shiny nose. Then you have the Trump with the brown eyes. This is the night he announced the Iranian bombing. And look at those teeth. Okay. Look at those teeth. And this is the same event, the same evening right there. All of a sudden, that's the wrong one, but you'll see a different pair of teeth. But but my point is the brown eyes there.
Oh yeah.
Trump has blue eyes. And
there's
somebody
side by sides that are undeniable. There's some, it really is.
yeah, Trump has blue eyes. He doesn't have brown. Somebody challenged me. He says he doesn't have blue. Yo, you go look up, go type anywhere. Go to where the profiles of presidents. Trump has blue eyes. Trump doesn't have cinnamon brown eyes. That's not what he has. So to your point, is they are using multiple different Trumps, as I kind of witnessed. And I'm what color were his eyes when you met him? Did you look at his teeth? Did you look at his eyes? What were your thoughts on that?
I wasn't as astute as I should have been, and we've been multiple occasions in the same room and talking, a foot away. Now I would probably be more aware of that. And I'm
like, can I look at your teeth?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I was, like I said, it was a bit underwhelming one of the times when we were in this. I was like, he's my height in person. And then I've seen a Trump that's about 6'3" or 6'4", and I'm 6'1", and standing face to face with him, we were the same height. And so that's odd too. It doesn't make sense, except, they can do things. These people are playing a role. They are movie casters. They're in TV. Trump's in TV. They can do things to make him look different, make him look taller, make him look more stately. I'm okay with all that. But the physical appearances, like you mentioned, I mean, there's some that they're so starkly different.
There's blue eyes. There's the blue eyes right there.
It was almost like Biden. And remember this too. The sitting president of the United States, just within the last, 6 months, publicly said that the last president we had wasn't even real. Do you guys all remember that? He said President Biden died in 2020 or whatever. So people, and it's another thing it's one of the things I posted. I didn't make any, and I still haven't made any quick opinions about what happened with Charlie Kirk or posted them. But one of the things I posted right away was, remember that the current sitting president told you guys that the last 4 years was totally fake. You weren't even looking at Biden. We all knew that, but for the president to come out and confirm it. So then you go, why am I just believing or trusting the narrative again and say, oh, we got him. Oh, it was a lone shooter. It was a tranny.
Exactly.
Come on, you guys. Haven't we learned yet? Seriously. And even with Trump, you know what?
Tranny.
Yeah. I'll say this too. Maybe there's a good reason why there's multiple Trumps, like physically speaking. And maybe he's trying to save his life, or maybe he's got a brother that's still alive that's playing him. And that's fine. I'm speaking.
Okay, now look at the teeth.
Go ahead.
Look at the new teeth.
Yeah, totally different. Yeah, and look at
those ears.
Look at little Marco's ear. My goodness.
Look at Marco's resting bitch face. Look at that. Look at that. Yeah,
little Marco elf.
Yeah. So you have that.
Spiritually
speaking. Okay. So, anyways, go ahead. I'm sorry. No.
My last serious note is that I really am speaking at a spiritual level. I say there's two Trumps. Trump can go good. Trump can go bad. Whatever Trump is, whatever the character or characters that are playing Trump are, and I still have hope that it can go good. But I think you're totally right. I think that anybody that gets in the position they are, like Kash Patel, like Tulsi Gabbard, anybody that's getting these positions, and they realize how much power another nation has, and not even a nation. I mean, it is a nation, but a group. It's an overused word, a cabal. When they have realized the power, it's a fearful thing. And so what they have to do is say, I'm going to die on this hill, and if God, this is where faith comes in. If God sees fit, like Charlie Kirk, for some reason, God allowed Charlie to be taken out. And that's the attitude that these people that are in a position of power, if they're going to win, Trump has to say, my life is not my own anymore. I'm giving it over to God. This is the good Trump coming out. I'm going to do the right thing, even if it costs me my life, instead of caving to fear. Now, I say that sitting behind, in my safe little chair here, but we haven't been without our battles. I mean, the federal government has come after us hardcore, and many other trials and tribulations. And I don't think we've caved. And I'm not saying that to brag, but I'm saying that you're living for a bigger purpose than just trying to save your life. Okay. Last serious thing. This guy named Jesus that lived 2,000 years ago and all that, he said it this way: he who saves his life will lose it, but he who loses his life for my sake will find it. So you got to like,
and
to apply to this,
and
lose
who's
your
this
life.
again?
This guy, Jesus is what some call him. Jesus,
Okay,
the
from
Christ.
Mexico. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't think that he was Mexican, but he was probably darker complexion. So yeah, if you lose your life, you'll find it. So hey, lose it. Lose your life.
So just to recap, everybody, we have the brown-eyed Trump, not the brown-eyed, yeah. And then we have the blue-eyed Trump in the same night with new teeth, veneers, and then we have the wax figure youthful Trump.
Yeah.
And then we have this kind of Trump here. That's a whole nother guy that just didn't make the cut there. So, you know,
Is that Timmy?
that's,
Is that Timmy?
we don't even know what's going on here, but okay. We're going to close it up here. We could go all night. And but if you want to follow Neil Bishop's, you want to follow his crusade and see more of his sermons as he gets the real Trump in the bottom of it. And he's going to have a boxing match with Greg Locke coming up at the Caesar's Palace, right?
I would totally do it too. You know what? I should publicly challenge Greg Locke to a boxing match right now.
I don't understand why you haven't already. Reverend Neil versus Pastor, or excuse me, Rabbi Greg. And that's going to be at the. It's going to be at the Caesar's Palace this coming fall. You don't want to miss that. There'll be Buddy Hackett will be there opening for them. You don't want to miss that lovely performance. But Neil, where can people find you? Where can they? Why don't you just give us your phone number too? We want to call you too. But how can people stay in touch with you?
Yeah, you know, we're always rebuilding. We've been shut down and deplatformed so many times. It's actually laughable now. So we're just kind of rolling with the punches. But yeah, if you go to X and go to X America News, that's the current producer and folks we're working with there. I've got a show on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 1:00 Central Time. You can watch there. My wife is also doing a show there. So you can go to X America News, click through, find us there. And then my personal Facebook page, you guys are welcome to go to. It's my name, Neil Bishop. I'm not hiding. I'm not under a fake pseudonym. I just put my stuff out there. I just don't care anymore. And one of these days, I want to start a podcast, and maybe you and I can do it together. And it's just called I Don't Care. I Don't Care.
Well, I will also say, and Susan Stevens, this is a microcosm of how people feel about Neil Bishop when he comes on with yours truly here. But I will say that you're going to see a return of Neil Bishop on the men's with myself and Mr. Gregorian once we find him, because that was such a success to this date. It's one of our best episodes we've ever done. Neil is authentic. He is a man of true liberation. He's a man who's going to be in deep shit when he gets home tonight, and the wife finds out he was on this show. But he's a man who's in trouble too. So anyways, you can find him in X. Yeah, tell the wife. But you can find him on X American News. You'll see more of Neil right here on Real Deal Media as it goes. Okay, Neil Bishop, everybody, and I'll say goodbye to you in the backstage there, Neil. Okay. Well, that ends it for us right there, everybody. And what a show. We hope you enjoyed this. It was a very lengthy, very in-depth discussion here. But these things need to happen, as uncomfortable as they are, as historical and, not meant to be preachy, but meant to be conversationalist at its finest. And we hope you enjoyed that. So tomorrow night, we're going to have a similar kind of ordeal, but it's going to be Real Deal Media Live, which it's going to be very interactive and engaging. We're going to go through the live chances by filmmaker friend. You're going to see a lot will be here tomorrow night, who has actually made a lot of films in the Middle East. He was there in Libya as the revolution happened and has been throughout the entire Mesopotamia regions. So you're going to get a clear take about what in the world's going on in the Middle East from Matthew himself. And you don't want to miss tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern, as we are usually every other night. Sometimes, half past and in between, but you know how things go. So I want to thank our guest, Neil Bishop. And Neil, I just want to say I'm sorry if you get in trouble. I'm just sorry right now. But for Neil, I want to thank all of you, as I'm Dean Ryan, and I will be back here tomorrow night. But thank you for sharing your night with me. And in the meanwhile, always remember to stay tuned and stay awake, as it's always a late night wherever you go. Good night, everybody.